Welcome to Sex, Sexy, and Sexism, Fixing Gender Inequality in Gaming. Thank you for coming on Sunday morning. So this is Lara Croft from the 2013 edition, how far she's come from her origin in the 90s. Yay. Some women have not fared so well. This is Samus from Metroid. She has lost a foot since her origin in the 80s, and I really don't know why that is. But we're going to be talking a lot about feminism today, and if you want to use the hashtag PAX Feminism, I'll be monitoring that during the hour and incorporating some of your questions and comments into this panel. And during the last 10-15 minutes, we will have open mics if you prefer to interrogate us that way. So first, a little bit about who we are and why I'm doing this. So my name is Ken Gagne. I am the host of YouTube channel Gamebits and co-host of the Open Apple podcast. I'm a freelance writer for Computer World and PC World, and I'm on the faculty at Emerson College here in Boston in the publishing department. Any Emerson alumni here? Sorry, volume. To your left is Susan Arendt, the managing editor of Joystiq.com. Hi, Susan. This is your 7th and final panel this weekend?
Yes.
You must be exhausted.
This last one. Can I give one other minor shout out?
Please.
Managing editor of Joystiq, also co-founder of the TakeThis.org.
Yes.
I'm very proud.
Farther down the line, we have Tifa Robles, formerly of Wizards of the Coast, now of Microsoft, but here today as the founder of the Lady Planeswalker Society, an organization. An organization for women to learn and play Magic the Gathering. And you're out of Seattle, is that correct?
Yep.
Anything you want to add? Have I missed anything?
Well, I want to talk a little about what I do in the industry. So at Wizards of the Coast, I was a brand manager on Magic, and I left there to actually grow the Lady Planeswalker Society even more so. And now I work on the Xbox dashboard for both 360 and X1 at Microsoft.
Oh, sweet.
Thank you. Okay, this fine gentleman to my left is Duane DeFore, and you don't work full-time in the gaming industry, so I'll leave it to you to explain what you do, because anything outside of gaming is beyond my ken.
I'm a media critic, activist. I do most of my work is in sexual assault, violence prevention. I do trainings all over the country, colleges, universities, athletes in the military. And I'm a lifelong gamer. Started playing the Atari and been playing since.
Thank you. It would be kind of awkward if you weren't a gamer. Show me your geek card.
Feel real out of place.
All right. And last but not least, we have Brianna Wu of Giant Spacekat, an indie development studio here in Boston, who this summer is releasing Revolution 60.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes. So if you don't mind me saying, like, Giant Spacekat is one of the very few, mostly female game dev teams in the industry. We have female engineers, female animators, female artists. We have a 18-year-old intern right now that, she wants to be a game developer, so we're bringing her in, teaching her how it's done. So that's what we're about.
Thank you. And fun fact, we did not meet in the gaming industry. We met last summer when I ran a Meetup.com event for a midnight screening of the film Serenity.
Yep. Oh, cool. We had ice cream. We're sitting there like at this booth at JP Licks, like eating ice cream. I never would have guessed I'd be there with you.
And there you were playing a game. I'm like, oh, whose game is that? And you're like, mine.
Right. We were trying to test a build, as we were wont to do.
So, fixing gender inequality in gaming is an issue that I became more aware of June of 2012 when I received an email from John Riccardi suggesting that I take a look at this Kickstarter by Anita Sarkeesian for Tropes versus Women in Video Games. There were 2 days left to go, and she'd already met her funding, but I threw my hat in because I watched her video analyzing video games from a feminist perspective, and I'd never really looked at games that way. I mean, I was, it's a joke how often Princess Toadstool gets kidnapped, and growing up with comic books, I was vaguely aware of women in refrigerators, but I hadn't really ever looked at video games.
Wait. Are you guys familiar with that term, women in refrigerators?
No. Susan.
No, you, bro. you brought it up.
It comes from a 1994 issue of Green Lantern when he first got his power ring, and it basically refers to any time that a woman is traumatized as a means to send the male protagonist on a quest to become a hero. The female character exists for no other reason than for that. Is that pretty much it?
Yeah, pretty much. The character was his girlfriend was literally in a refrigerator. Yeah, killed and put in a refrigerator. And it refers to doing something horrible to the female character to inspire the male character to act because he must defend her, whatever, you get the idea.
I wasn't going to be quite that graphic, thank you, but I probably should.
Honey, that's why you have me.
But I should. And that's why you're sitting next to me. I should warn that I can't necessarily predict all the issues that we're going to be discussing today, so this panel may require a trigger warning for those who need it.
Oh, fair point, yeah.
Right. So I saw this video that Anita posted on Kickstarter, and then I became aware of all the harassment she received as a result of this. And I was like, not cool, dude, not cool. And so I backed her Kickstarter, I saw the videos that came out, and in the 2 years since then, I've seen more and more news stories about this. Like Jennifer Hepler of BioWare, who worked on the script for Dragon Age 2, and she quit because, if you can read the fine print down there, she received graphic threats were made to kill her children because people didn't like her game. Carolyn Pettit of GameSpot wrote a review of GTA 5, gave it 9 out of 10, and at the end of the review, she mentioned that the game is somewhat misogynistic, and there were people calling for her to be fired, and far, far worse. Game Developers Conference 2013, there was a party hosted by the IGDA that Brenda Romero and Darius Kazim walked out of and resigned their membership in the IGDA because they had brought in some scantily clad dancers. The game developed by Vanillaware and published by Atlas, Dragon's Crown, on some very anatomically impossible characters. And unfortunately, the artist for this game didn't respond very appropriately. And then Capcom, more recently, just a few months ago, talked about how their game that's coming out Deep Down will have no female playable characters because it doesn't work into the story. And even right here at PAX East last year, there was an issue where some Tomb Raider cosplayers were not treated appropriately by a supposedly professional journalist. And I don't think it's just that in the last 2 years the scales have fallen from my eyes. It seems more like this is becoming more of an issue, or at least it's receiving more coverage. And so I'd like to start by asking the panelists, is this an issue that we're just becoming more aware of and giving it the attention it warrants, or is this actually becoming worse of an issue, which is why we have more to cover about it? Susan?
Both, actually. More people are willing to speak up about it. Women... for a long time, trust me, as someone who's been writing about video games for a long time, this has been going on, this is not new, but it was always just something you kind of accepted. Well, this is my job, guess the rape threats are part of it. But now, as women are getting more and more support, as more and more women are becoming a visible part of the industry, in all parts of the industry, in the tabletop industry, making the games, writing about the games, we're more willing to call bullshit on that and say, no, you don't get to talk to us like that. So there is that, and calling attention to that. And still to this day, with my colleagues, my educated, worldly, knowledgeable, experienced colleagues, things still happen and they go, I can't believe someone just said that to you. So there is this ongoing education that, yes, this still happens, but in combination with that, I think there is a certain segment of the greater gaming community that feels threatened by this continuing empowerment of women and calling on the bullshit, and really, wants to have the He-Man Women Haters Club stay the way it is, and that is causing them to act out even more. So I think it's actually a combination of factors why this keeps coming up. And to play devil's advocate, it gets clicks. Yeah. I cannot say that 100% of the coverage that happens is good-natured. Some of it absolutely happens because clicky, 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 traffic good. Yeah. So let's just be honest about that. and just accept that as part of the overall situation. But
if I could add to that,
yeah.
like I think something that's really cool is I feel like we finally hit a critical mass. Like with Twitter, you can get these issues out there in a way that you really didn't before. And I also think like in the industry, you finally hit a point where women are almost 50% of the gamers out there. We're reading coverage. People tell me sometimes it's hard to find talented women in the industry. I'm inundated with engineers, artists, animators, people that are eminently qualified to work in game development. And I think we're just rising up through the ranks. But I wanted to say, come to something you were talking about, Ken, at the beginning of it. Something I could not have anticipated when I got this job were the rape threats, death threats, assault threats I would get. I did a piece at the beginning of this year, it was called Game of the Year, Why Women Won't Be Voting for Game of the Year. And I had people, I was stunned by it. This is the first time it ever happened to me. I'm sure you've been dealing with this for longer. But people looking up my address, people sending that to me, telling me they're going to meet me in an alley and rape me.
Getting satellite photos of your house, that's always fun.
It's to threaten you. Like that's the best I can come up with, that they feel...
It's to silence you.
It's a silencing tactic. Yeah. And I think it's because they're very threatened with the idea that their culture, this gamer culture, could change. Yeah. And they're right to be scared because it is changing. Yeah. So that's the way I feel about it.
Tifa?
Yeah, I definitely see the same sorts of things in the tabletop industry. Magic the Gathering's player base is 90% male. So
is it that much?
It really is.
Wow,
yeah.
Okay.
And it's actually getting. There are more female players in the last 5 years than there was in the rest of Magic's history. So it is becoming a better percentage of the audience. But because of that, when 90% of the population doesn't have to think about the problem, and then when it comes up, a lot of times the response is, oh, well, it's like, this isn't a problem because I haven't seen it. And that just makes it acceptable behavior. And there's a lot of subtle sexism.
Oh, yeah.
And people don't see that.
Yeah.
And they don't understand. And it's not until it's like very clearly laid out to them that they can even try to understand it.
Can I add on to that? Because I think this is if there's one message I could get to the guys out there in the audience today, sexism in 2014 is not a Mad Men moment. It is, it's very rarely someone coming up and making a pass or something like that. That happens. That absolutely happens. The way that sexism happens to every woman on this panel every day is a much more subtle thing. It is having your opinion invalidated. Yeah. It is when people leap into a conversation and minimize or try to dismiss your lived life experiences. It is minor comments that happen. We were talking about an interview that we had, and someone came up and kind of had a very leading question with an agenda. And it's not anything it's not a Mad Men moment. It's this thing with people that haven't really thought through, I hate the word privilege, but I think it's accurate here. They haven't thought through the privilege that they have as men in this industry. And they bring unconscious attitudes to it, and they will minimize your opinion or disregard it or talk it down.
Well, and when you sit across the table of someone at a Magic tournament, they immediately see that you're a woman and think, oh, she's not good at the game. Yeah. She's either like a brand new player, or she's here with her husband because she wants to spend time with him. Nobody assumes you're there for the game. And more than that, they assume you're going to be bad at it.
Yeah. I run into that as a game dev professional. I can't tell you how many professional industry events I've gone to and people have asked me if I'm a marketer or if I am in charge of HR. I'm a software engineer. I can talk about frameworks, APIs, 3D stuff, Unreal Engine with anyone. And I'm constantly assumed that I don't know stuff. And it is exhausting to deal with.
Yeah.
Duane, do you want to talk a little bit about why guys are doing this and what it is that they're so afraid of and what it says about them?
Well, first thing I think that I don't work in the industry, so I'm sort of looking at this more as, the perspective of somebody who plays games. But I don't think that there's any coincidence that at the same time that depictions of female characters are getting more graphic, more naked, whatever, women in the industry are experiencing greater amounts of things like death threats and rape threats and that sort of thing. These are connected issues. They're not two separate things happening at the same time. And so I think it's really, again, it comes down to oftentimes as change happens, there is a backlash that happens. And we see this, giving, again, an outside perspective. The game industry is in the